Hey YouTubers, welcome to the channel. So a few days ago I was at someone's house and I noticed through a glass door an old guitar hanging there. I had no idea what it was. I did ask if I could have a closer look at it, and upon inspection I asked if the husband didn't care, he could either give it or sell it to me and I would restore it. They got back to me a few days later and he said, yeah, you can have it. I did give them $50 for it. Here it is. It is a Sakai SG style in Olympic white, and it's a 60s. Technically it's a vintage guitar. Now everything on here is absolutely original. It is missing the tremolo arm, and I did ask them to have a look for it because it'd be virtually impossible to get it. It's got P90s on it. I would assume they're considered as P90s. It's got 2 volumes and a tone. It has on-off switches for each pickup. I'd imagine that's what they are. I'm going to plug it in a sec to see what we get out of it. I'll try to put some close-up photos. There's a lot of rust, a lot of gunk on it. It just needs a really good clean. I'm going to leave everything the way it is. Obviously, I'm going to clean everything up. Now, if I replace anything at all, it will probably be the screws on the pickguard, maybe the screws on the P90s. I'll assess it as I go. Maybe even the screws on the back plate there. It's a solid body guitar. The electronics are attached to the pickguard, which makes things easier. It'd be interesting to see if it was actually grounded as well. That's pretty much it. There's nothing actually wrong with it as far as aesthetics go. It is a 21 fret style guitar. It's got a 0 fret. I just realized that up the top it's got a 0 fret right up the top here. Action is really, really high, but the bridge can be lowered. And the neck probably might need a bit of adjusting as well with the truss rod. The truss rod is actually adjustable down here. It'll be interesting to see how it all comes up. It'll be a very time-consuming process to restore it. But when it's all finished, it should look really, really good. I'm going to leave the body Olympic white. I'm going to just polish it up, maybe even use some 3000 wet and dry and try to get it restored as best I can. The neck and the frets, none of them are popping out. Obviously, they need polishing. But yeah, it looks like it's very smooth actually. But it's got open tuners. They're all one piece. It's all one. Again, they're not cracked or anything, which is really, really good. I haven't even turned them, to be quite honest. I'm worried that these strings are just going to snap because it's so brittle. So let's just grab... I always get nervous and put in an old guitar. Well, there you go. Snap right in. Okay, so up is on, because if I flick it down, the tuner goes off. And if I turn the volume up on the second one, flick down. Okay, so the switches do work. I don't think. I'm a bit worried about, they're not turning very well. Okay, I'm not going to try to tune it because they need restoring. They need to be cleaned up, oiled, and I don't want to wreck them. So we're just going to leave it as it is. Let's turn the volume down. Let's get rid of the tuner and let's turn it on. Okay, both pickups are on. It's pleasing that really, really high action over here. There's no fret buzz, probably because the action's so high. Let's turn it up a bit more. Wow, this is all the way up. Okay. The volume was, the tone was actually all the way on the other end, so there you go. Tone's all the way open. I'm going to turn the volume down. So everything works. I'm not surprised that all the electronics work, because I don't think the person who owned this guitar, ever took the pickguard off and mucked around with electronics. It's literally just been sitting there. So it'd be very curious to see when I actually do lift it all off, what it's like under there. Nice little guitar. I thought it was actually a mini guitar at first when I first saw it, sort of thing, but actually no, it's quite full size, 21 frets. So very similar to a Fender. That's it for now. I'm going to start restoring it, and I'll keep adding things to the video. Obviously this will be just one video, so you won't need to wait, and we'll see how we go. There's a few scratches here and there, but it will be interesting to see how well it comes up with the polish. That's it for now. So let's move on to stage 2, and that is completely disassembling this guitar, and then the cleaning process starts. Okay, so I'm just showing you here, this is the neck. As you can see, it looks pretty revolting, doesn't it? But you just notice the first couple of frets. See how I've removed the stain? The second fret and a little bit further down, like over here, for example, you can see these patches of the stain had just come off. And there was no way of really fixing it. I tried first of maybe putting some stain on those patches to even it all out, but it wasn't quite right, and I couldn't really get the neck to be nice and smooth. So the solution was to completely remove the stain. So you can see already these first 3 frets down the bottom, the last 3 frets, are completely removed. It's a bit of a tedious process. The paint stripper, which is this stuff over here, that doesn't really hurt the wood. Fortunate that they had stained it. If they hadn't stained it and it was just bare timber, I would not be going through this. I would have been done with the neck by now, but I'm not. Okay, so the neck's been done. I basically just oiled it a few times, used steel wool, polished up all the frets. Don't know how well you can see all that on the video, but it's come up pretty good. There are these blemishes here in the wood. Can't do anything about those. I'm not going to re-stain it. I think it's better I left it natural. But yeah, that's it for now. I'll probably just keep rubbing it a bit more with some clean cloths to get all the black off, so it doesn't end up all on my fingers eventually when I play, because there's a lot of gunk in there that's kind of caught in the timber, and you just got to keep kind of rubbing it with clean cloths for it to come out. And then the frets will just get a little bit shiny as you do that every time. Probably the inlays was a little bit disappointing, because the stuff I used to remove the stain damaged them a little bit. Bit annoyed about that, but overall not too bad for what it was. Okay, so other things I just want to show you was I used basically wet and dry steel wool and polish and just some soapy water, and I just cleaned this to death. I didn't care the fact that it was going to take away the chrome because it was already pitting, so you needed to really be aggressive with it. And I've put it all together, as you can see, with the springs, cleaned everything up, all original parts, all original screws. This is ready to go, so this drops in onto the body, and then the cap lifts up at the back, and you put the strings through it, and it's all good. So that's exciting. The plate, I cleaned that again, same way. It's got smudge marks on it at the moment. And again, it was all about just keeping everything the same. So I cleaned everything the same way. That way we have consistency. A bit annoyed with that paste, that rough paste, because what happens is, I tell you, this was supposed to be a very easy thing to put back together. These freely move on the nut, and it assembles. But when I went to put it together, they wouldn't go on very easily. In fact, they were getting jammed because there was a lot of gunk in the threads, because I used the same paste on the thread to clean, and also to clean all the rust off the little rings here. So what happened is, all this gunk got in there and I couldn't get it out, and it only came out once I actually forced these rings on the nut, and it kind of just drove it out. But it was a pain. In fact, it caused me to scratch this last one here, which means that I had to sand it smooth, and it lost a bit of its chrome, and it's not consistent with the others. But look, I was a bit annoyed about that, but yeah, never going to use that glue again. I'm going to go with either the oven cleaner or liquid rust if I ever have something like that. Okay, so I washed all the plastics in soapy water. They've come up pretty nice. These little bits here, I've just got to be careful what you use on it. You don't want to start wrecking the plastic, but I'm just going to use a Dremel tool with just the sponge, maybe put a little bit of polish on there, and hopefully just get rid of those. If you try to use something like an acetone and that, you'll actually wreck the plastic. So, or even a rust remover, I don't trust that it'll work. There's little bits of residue in here. That's because they were actually stuck in there with a little bit of kind of a glue or something, the P90s. So I'll clean that out as well. Pickguard itself, I cleaned it with soapy water, but you can see in the light, look at all those scratches, and there's residue there. So what I'm going to do with that is also use polish the Dremel. Also, I can put this at the end of my drill bit with the different polishes, and just see if I can kind of cut that back and really bring it up to a nice shine. I'm not looking for perfection. I'm just looking to get it as good as I can get it without actually damaging it. And the last thing I'm going to do now, so this is what I'm going to do over the next hour, is to sit and just relax and do this. With these, I didn't submerge them in any water because you know, they're really intact well. So what I want to do is I'm just going to use a toothbrush. So there you go, like a toothbrush like this, and then just get into the nooks and crannies with a little bit of just cleaning solution, whether that be like a Mr. Sheen or something like that, and just try to clean them up. So yeah, I'm just avoiding submerging them because I don't want these stickers that say tone and volume on them. I want them to stay intact. So I just clean the grime off those. So yeah, I'll be doing that for the rest of the day, and that'll be that for day 2. So this is the second part that I've put all together, ready to go. I did a lot of work with these. I took all these apart, cleaned everything individually, was very careful not to damage the actual pots, the knobs I should say, for the pots, because they are vintage. I actually used all the original screws. I just cleaned them all up because they weren't anything I had spares of, except for the pickguard screws, which will be brand new, and also the screws here for the switches are brand new. And I used brass screws in lieu of stainless steel for the P90 pickguards. I did all the wiring. I put shielding on the back, as you can see, and I just rewired that little bit up the top here, soldered it, and yeah, it works. I tested it. Always a good idea to test your electronics. This wire is just the grounding wire, which I'm going to thread through the body. I'll show you the body next. But yeah, that's it, and it's all. I polished the pickguard. I used some wet and dry, starting at 2500, and then I went up to 3000. I used some steel wool as well, and then I used the polisher just to do my best to remove scratches. Didn't paint it, didn't do anything like that. I just polished it up, and that's as far as. And that's the pickguard. So that's all ready to just drop into the body, and away we go. Okay, so the last thing to show you, as you can see, is the body. Now, what I did is I obviously cleaned it up. I was very careful not to damage it in any way. I used 3000 wet and dry on the body and it gave it a dull finish. So I needed to buff it back to a nice sheen, and I just took it to a smash repair place which has painted one of my guitar bodies, paid them $50, and they have all the stuff there, and I asked them, look, can you just bring it back to a buff? And they did a great job, and it's exactly what I wanted. I just wanted the shine to come back. As you can see, it's now nice and shiny and buffed all around. And like I said, this is a 50-plus-year-old guitar. It's actually older than me. Okay, so I've put the guitar together. I haven't strung it yet, and I was very careful to make sure I did it right. It looks really good now with all the screws. As you can see, everything, it's all nice and shiny, and when you can't see the faded bits, or you can only see the aged bits, I should say, that have been exposed, it looks very uniform. And the only thing I needed to do was I was very careful with the pick guard to make sure you lined up the holes really well, because, you know, little things like that can make a difference. It's a fragile guitar as well, in a sense. It is quite robust, to be quite honest, but it's a fragile thing, and you really need to be careful not to make mistakes. Very happy with it now. I did drill out the holes here. The reason for that is because the screws I chose were 8 gauge and they were just a little bit too tight. You don't really need to have strong screws in here because the force is down for the strings. But here, because you got the tremolo arm, I actually put the same screws on this side, which were 15mm, but on the back, underneath here, I've used stainless steel 25mm screws, which were just long enough that they wouldn't go through the body through the other end. And I can turn that over to show you that nothing's come through. I put the guitar neck, that came on very easily. Stainless steel screws there, spared no expense. And yeah, and it's all looking great. I'm just about to string it with the bridge. I've got the bridge here. That just kind of slots straight on, and then you're going to string it. So I'm going to do that. I don't know if the camera does it justice, but it looks absolutely amazing right now. It looks like $1 million, and really happy that I've put the time in to make it look this good. Anyway, let's string it and plug it in. Okay, so after about a week of cleaning and polishing, the guitar's been assembled. There's a couple of things that I came across when I first strung it up a couple of days ago that I had to fix. One of them was the action. You get a lot of this with guitars, that when the neck's perfectly flat, the bridge is way too high. So what you need to do is put a shimmy in here, which makes the neck angle back a little bit and corrects the action height, and then you're able to have a reasonable action without raising the bridge or lowering it excessively. I did that. That wasn't really overly difficult to do. It's just a piece of timber, that, like a very thin piece of timber, a couple of mils thick, that tapers off at the end. The other thing was that I needed to, well, the tuning pegs, this guitar is 50 plus years old. The tuning pegs struggle. A couple of them do struggle. I tried putting oil, Vaseline and everything. I don't know what it is specifically. It could just be that it's not that great, but it's not something that you muck around with a lot anyway. I'd rather them be stiff than loose. If they're loose, then they're always going to keep falling out of tune. I also realised that it's probably a guitar, it's certainly an entry-level guitar. It's not anything to write home about, but it is really designed for ages of say 6 to say 14. I would say your first kind of guitar. The reason is it is just a little bit smaller overall. It's and that makes a difference. I noticed that my fingers were touching the adjacent strings, and I just think it's really designed more for a kid or a young teenager. Yeah, it's just a little bit smaller, and it's not the best. Up here there's some dead frets which I haven't attended to at all, and the reason is I really couldn't be bothered, to be quite honest, because I know that I probably won't really play this guitar very often at all. It's just nice as something hanging on the wall and a conversation piece, but generally speaking, it's not something that I would rush to grab off the wall to play, because I'd find it frustrating being a slightly tinier version of a standard guitar. The other thing I needed to do was I needed to adjust the truss rod. The truss rod was loose, and which means the neck was bowing. like that. So what you need to do, you tighten up the truss rod and you straighten the neck out. All the electronics, by the way, were perfect. Like I said, I mean, the pots have got corrosion on them, but I don't know whether or not that really affects anything. One other thing I'll just quickly mention, you got to like sometimes play a guitar in. You know, as you play it in, it gets smoother after about a month. The frets are very polished and the neck was polished. I used a different oil originally on the neck after I took the stain off. I used the oil that you use on, believe it or not, like on chopping boards and things like that, which it's a good quality oil, but it's designed to keep moisture out. But I found it was a little bit sticky on my fingers, and the neck wasn't actually when you go to bend, it was yeah, I felt like it was sticking. This guitar hasn't been really played a lot, so I don't think it's just really played in, and I doubt I'll even play it in myself. But if we just do some. That's the neck pickup. I'll switch to the bridge pickup, which is typically a spankier, sharper pickup with the same chords. It's a lot different playing, say, a Strat. A Strat's got a different type of tremolo system, and you know, it's easier to kind of hold chords. And this is it's kind of a very rough guitar to play at the moment. It feels a little tight compared to my other guitars, which I feel like I have to really push down to get nice clean chords. What I normally play that on my other guitars, I tend to play it effortlessly. I just struggle with this guitar. I think, like I said, because everything's just a little bit smaller, and I really think my hand's way too big for this guitar. It's certainly not a guitar I would buy if it was on a rack, because it just wouldn't be comfortable to play. But for a beginner, a kid, certainly, or you know, even a grown-up with very small hands. I don't know that it's. I think it sounds pretty good. I mean, you know, like I said, it sounds pretty good. It's a Japanese. It's probably would have sold for a few $100s at best. Who knows? Maybe even less back then. In the 60s, it could have been like, you know, $50. I don't know that it's worth too much money now. Even though I restored it, it's not. You know, if you fix the dead frets up, and someone might buy it for a few $100s, but I don't know, I would never sell it probably. Like I said, I'll just keep it on the wall. And yeah, but it turned out pretty nice. It was a nice project. The tremolo arm is going to arrive from China. I got it on eBay. It's like a flat Gretsch one, so it will suit, and then I can kind of screw it in there with the nut that is supplied, or if that doesn't kind of work, fashion it somehow. Yeah, it's okay, but like as far as a playing guitar goes, you would need to fix a few other problems. That's it. That's pretty much the video. So yeah, this is, like I said, a 1960s Sakai, kind of like SG style with the tremolo, and yeah, it was kind of a fun little project. It's a shame it doesn't play perfectly. It's a shame it's not full size. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching. See you later. so that was the video of restoring the guitar. Now there was a couple of things that I wasn't entirely happy with, and I've corrected those, and I'm going to go through what they were. There's still one little issue with the guitar that needs correcting. I haven't got around to doing it because I've had other things to do. Now, the tuning pegs was the first thing. Now, unfortunately, I could not use the originals. They were just too tight. They weren't really working. I tried to make them better, but really they just weren't very good at all. I bought these. These were kind of like a vintage style, as you can see. Just got them on eBay. They're just run-of-the-mill, kind of like from China sort of thing. But they work. They're perfectly good. The strings are very easy to tune now, and that problem was solved. And they actually matched the existing holes. So that was the first thing I did. The other issue I had was the neck. I used the wrong oil for whatever reason. Don't ever use chopping board oil, because it just is, even though it's a good oil for chopping boards, it's not the right oil for your neck. I don't know why, don't even ask. I cleaned the oil off and I re-cleaned the neck really well with some 2000 grit sandpaper. Just smoothed it off as best I could and cleaned it right up, and then I just used my lemon oil that I use on all my guitars, and now I don't have any stickiness whatsoever. So that eliminated that problem as well. So yeah, the tuners and the neck were the two main things. The other thing I did is I just fixed up the wedge a little bit here, because I didn't like the action. I didn't think the action was very good, and I just wanted to get a nice, so you won't be able to tell, but there's just a little bit of space underneath there, and it's just a little bit of, I don't know if I can get that on the camera. It looks pretty flat, I know, but it has got a very slight lean. But as you can see, the action is very good. Now, the other thing that arrived was, this is kind of like a Gretsch style tremolo arm, and it kind of gets in the way a little bit, but it does work, and I'll play in a minute just so you can see what I'm talking about. And the other thing that still needs really correcting is there are about 2 or 3 frets that need to be reseated or hammered down or clamped down. I actually did buy a fret kit with interchangeable fret angles, or radiuses I should say, and I may one day take the strings off and take the neck off and put it in a vise and clamp it and see if I can get them done, or maybe just get it refretted. The other option I thought of, well, why don't I just buy a brand new neck, because there's absolutely nothing wrong with the rest of the guitar, and maybe a brand new neck with put these tuners on there might be a better option as well. But then again, everything on it pretty much is authentic, so I just thought I'd leave it as it is. It does play a lot better. I still feel it is a tiny guitar compared to even my Tele or Strat or whatever. So let's see if I'm pretty sure I've got both pickups are on. The Blues Junior is warmed up. That's with both pickups. I'll just use the neck, and I'll crank it up to 10. I don't have any effects, nothing. 2. And then I'll just switch to the bridge. It's got that kind of P90, I guess, single coil sound to it. So I prefer the neck personally, so I'll go back to the neck. So it feels a lot better than it did before, and it had a lot to do with the oil. As far as the tremolo goes, it's not really the right tremolo, but I mean, I don't know what else to do. That's pretty much what I got. So if I'm going to do that, then I need to actually put some delay and reverb. see, it sounds okay. Like I said, this isn't the best. I've kind of put a some sort of a screw thing there with a nut, but it just does come loose. It's not really designed for it, and it really gets close to the knobs, as you can see, quite close. You can always can't even tell. It's a fun little guitar, like I said, and it is playable, but up here you're going to get some fret buzz. There. It's a small issue up here. The rest of it's actually quite fine. Anyway, that's it. Restored 1964 Sakai, nice little guitar, fun, and if I get those frets fixed up, might play it a little bit more often. But yeah, it sounds nice, and like I said, I was happy to restore it. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you like restorations, if I get more old guitars, I'm definitely going to restore them where possible. Thanks for watching.